Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special Ed Dale Live. It's a lot of people are tuning in today because we've got extraordinary announcements with WWDC, and we are going to be talking newsstand carnage. Yes, boy, did I get a few emails after the WWDC. There was too many W's there, but hey, I got a lot of email about what this means and what this means for MagCasters and what does this mean for digital publishing. Is it all doomed? Doomed, they say. Spoiler alert, no, I think this is a wonderful opportunity and we will be discussing all of those opportunities today. I also had the pleasure during the week of interviewing Taki Moore, and we are going to play that interview after we discuss the newsstand, and we're going to do we're going to be talking about some things that I think are really pertinent to all content producers and all digital publishers, because to me, and we'll talk about this a lot in the newsstand section, the cost of delivery of information, the cost of anything, this is economic one. The cost of anything effectively goes to production. Now, when the cost of production is effectively zero, like this content here, doesn't mean the value isn't awesome, but hey, the content here is effectively what people will be prepared to pay. And we've seen the app economy absolutely drive all of this. So we've got the app economy, we've got all the other issues with that. We've got, what else? We've got all of these factors, and then we've got what is going on with newsstand carnage. And so that will be a lot of fun to talk about, and we're going to go in depth going through that. Let me just take a moment here to make sure that we've got everybody up and running. Yes, we're looking good. The health is good. Love that when Google tells me the health is good. That is fantastical. All right, we are cooking with gas. So let's get to the topic du jour. Newsstand carnage. So first of all, what I want to do is just explain what we know now. So let's go through that, and then I'll talk about the strategies, the implications, and the opportunities that we have because of this change. So let's do that. So first of all, let me just bring up my trusty phone so you guys can see what the current situation is. So let's have a look here. Let's bring that up here, like this, do this, turn on that, like so. Super smooth. There we have our iPhone. I'm just going to switch to the iPhone screen here so you can see it. And pop it over for you guys. Okay, you're all familiar with this. This is an iPhone screen. Now, this is my particular iPhone home screen. Never leave your iPhone unattended. That's the first lesson. And 2, check your desktop picture before you start streaming live. So 2 valuable life lessons already today in Ed Dale Live. But we want to talk newsstand. Now, if you have a look here, you might notice that the newsstand is not on this phone. This is an iOS 8 phone, and there's no newsstand here. What is going on? Well, me, like most people, and remember, I ran the company which created the largest independent newsstand publishers on the planet with MagCast. And even I have not got the newsstand app on my screen because I tend to search for. Because here's the thing though, check this out. If I want to try find newsstand, right? See what's happening here as I'm searching? It doesn't come up. There's no way to find newsstand by search. And given the 297 apps, yes, you heard that right, 297 apps I have on my phone, it's my job, okay? Don't judge. Given that that's the case, so let's try find in these organised. Now, stop me when you can find the Newsstand app. Well, spoiler alert, it is on this page, just above Annabelle's forehead there, to be exact. So let's have a look here. So we've got the Newsstand app, and if you can see it, it's actually on the second row on the left of your screen. So the icon has always sucked. But there it is, and there is the Newsstand. So you can see we've got a bunch of issues here, and they reflect the front covers. These are all the current front covers of all these particular issues. And if I go into, say, Best Self magazine here, you can see the magazine issue, and you can load those. I'm not sure if I've got a copy. Yeah, I do. So off we go to. So you can see that. That's Newsstand as it existed. And as it exists as we speak today for everybody. However, taking one for the team, I put my trusty iPad Air 2 and converted it on your behalf to the very original beta of 9 experience, where all these changes will happen, and this is what you will see when you do so. Now, let me just actually clarify that. That's what we're seeing currently. This could be well and truly subject to change. But look what's happened. Newsstand, and I've done you the courtesy of zooming in, has become an ordinary folder. And you can see there that the icons are in that folder, just like if you see my reading folder next to that. So it's just become a normal old folder. So if we go into and tap into that folder, you'll see that each of the apps is just the app icon. Now, it's funny because you never saw the app icon, because if you recall, we had front covers beforehand. So the front covers are gone. Now, it also means now you had an app that you loved and you had a magazine and you tried to drag it out of Newsstand, guess what? You couldn't. So now, if we have a look at that right in the middle there, Digital Publisher can actually sit out by itself. So to me, this is an extraordinarily positive change. The facts are that most people had dragged their Newsstand app out of their home screen anyway because they didn't find it, and discoverability, particularly because if you recall in the old days, in the old iOS 7, the little covers in the little icon, so in the Newsstand icon, but they don't change anymore. You can't even see it, and it's buried. So there's no way to indicate that there's any changes to the content on your app. And if they really love your app, they'll probably want to put it on the home screen if it's an area they're passionate. So the first thing that's very important to put across here is it's my view that this is an incredibly positive change for publishers. You might notice there that I get rid of most notifications, but you can notice there on the communications folder, which is just above Digital Publisher, that it's got a little push notification badge there letting me know that there's new stuff. Well, guess what? You'll be able to do that with your magazine as well. So, yes, the Newsstand icon has gone. The Newsstand folder, well, it wasn't a folder, but the Newsstand gap has gone, and a folder will be in its place. So to me, and that means that your app can exist everywhere. So what else are problems? Well, what about traffic, I hear you saying? Well, for the last month or so, we've had the privilege, thanks Apple, of actually understanding where all our traffic comes for all apps, not let alone Newsstand apps. And this has been a fascinating exercise. And here's the deal. Nobody searched for your magazine via the Newsstand. Virtually nobody clicked the store button in the actual Newsstand. They just did like everybody else, and they searched the App Store. And I'm sure if you look at your stats, and all the MagCasters that have let me have a look at their stats to confirm this, play this out. Nobody was using Newsstand. Was irrelevant. So from a MagCaster perspective, from a digital publisher perspective, as we talk today, to me, the changes are awesome. But, as they say in the classics, there was way more. Something else was announced, and this has confused a lot of people. So let's go through it. And if I switch over here like so, and switch this here, and then tap this. News. A new app was announced, and it's called News. And it looks very beautiful. It looks incredibly, sort of in the style and the feel of Flipboard, which, as many of you know, is an app that I've loved from the very first day it was released. I called it the first killer app of the iPad. It really showed how you could, you could get this news and you could get it collated and you could virtually have your own private magazine. Brilliant. So Apple have created this new app called News. And if we scroll up here, you can make it look really beautiful. You can have the articles looking great. You can have, as they say here, engaging stories, rich with photo galleries, videos, and animation. Now, you can't do that right now as sits with the beta. It's just taking RSS feeds like everybody else does. But that's the future. That's what they're hoping. And I assume by the time we get to the fall, which is when all this is released, will be... you will be able to do that using a new format. You can see they've got leading news sources, and this is, again, something that people are very, very concerned about because typically Apple is not in it for the little guy. As much as I love and adore Apple and I think it's a magnificent company, at the end of the day, when it came to individual content producers, Steve Jobs famously called podcasters amateurs. They really have a bias towards promoting big publishing companies. We see this in the newsstand. It's very rare to see an independent MagCaster promoted or featured because they are doing their best to promote the big brands. Apple has a big brand bias. There's no question about it. But let's hold that thought for a minute because when we talk implications in just a few minutes, I want to come back to that because I think this is fascinating. Now, check this out. And this is a change in languaging for Apple. And if you follow them as intensely and closely as I do, you may miss this, but I did not. Listen to this. Explore over 1 million topics from sources including top news organizations and indie publications. They're not being called amateurs anymore. We're being called indie. I love that. And the thing is, you will be able to sign up your blog or your Magcast, we'll talk about that in a minute, to be able to provide news into this new app. The reason that you're really going to want to do that, and this is where the strategy, and I hope if you're listening to this and you are not a digital publisher or not a Magcaster, but you have a blog or you have an online business, I imagine that should be who you are, you should stay and listen very intently when I talk about this strategy because it's going to blow your mind. Okay, so you need to stay with me as well because this is crucial. Again, everybody's missed this, but not me because that's my job. So we've got stories you care about, you can choose your topics, and all of this is really, really good. Now, before we go to our news format for publishers, where they're doing that, and you can see here, by the way, this is on the iOS 9. So if you do a search for Apple iOS 9, you can go to this exact page, and you can click the Learn More button, and you can download and have a look at all of what's available there for News Publisher. Now, what are the other issues here? I see news as a really interesting thing. And the first thing we've got to ask ourselves, the very first thing we need to look at here is what is the job to be done? What is the job to be done here? My favorite question. Okay, let's put up my newsstand carnage graphic here because, gosh, I worked so hard on it. Newsstand carnage. What's the job to be done here? What's Apple trying to do? Now, if you're a developer or you're a publisher, you're a niche marketer, a niche styler, you're a challenger, you're a thing, Apple doesn't care about you. Sorry, they don't. You are way at the bottom of the Apple care cycle. At the top of the Apple care cycle is Apple. Right underneath that is their customers, Joe and Jane Smith, the people who buy the iPhones, buy the Macs, buy the iPads, listen to iTunes. That is who they care about. That is their fundamental focus, because they know, guess what? If they do an amazing job, as they have since 1997, they are now the biggest company in the world. That's not an accident. The only way they became the biggest company in the world is by providing products that consumers, normal people, the normals, the civilians, love. Okay, and as a byproduct of that, developers, MagCasters, digital publishers, niche providers have benefited from that. $30 billion, and if you're playing along at home and following Apple as closely as I am, that's doubled in the last year alone. $30 billion have been paid out to app developers as a consequence of us providing great experiences for the people that Apple care about, Joe and Jane Smith. Okay, stay with me. What is the biggest problem with digital content here as far as Joe and Jane Smith are concerned? Let's think about it. Where do we get our news? Where do we get our content? Well, if you're like most people, you get it from Facebook, right? Who watches news anymore? How many of you watch news? How many of you listen to news on the radio? Right? It's not a core way of accessing news, accessing information. But we're all interested in news. We all want information. We want stuff on our products. And, typically Facebook is the way to access this stuff. So let's just bring up let's do a demonstration. We're live here. Let's demonstrate. So if I bring up my iPhone here again, there, and I just go back to my home screen. Now, one of the things as a digital publisher, they solve this particular problem. But let's be Joe and Jane Smith for a second. To their Facebook icon, right? And they go to their Facebook, and this is where they get news and sweet videos of and videos here of Australia Post. Here we are. Okay, we've got a Guardian. Wind farms may have potential health impacts. What a load of shit. But hey, I can get angry at that, and I'm going to look at this just to see what a load of rubbish that is. Now, notice I've just done one on this. I haven't seen this article yet. I still haven't seen the damn news article that I'm actually outraged by and I want to read. So I have to tap again. Count. 1, 2, 3. Not bad. 4 seconds. Okay? As a content publisher. In fact, I can't leave that article up there because it's so much bullshit that I just... Yeah, exactly. Look at that coal power station, dickhead. You're not here for my politics. You're what's going on with Newsstand and Newsstand publishing. So, did you see how long that took? Now, as we're not civilians, our normal type of people that access information on the internet. So you and I have this understanding that think about all the technology that had to happen for that content to display in just 4 seconds. And you think about, okay, well, they're doing a pretty darn good job here. That image probably, and so from Melbourne, Australia, it had to go through sharing this live stream. Go to Iceland, grab that image from the Facebook image farm. It had to grab content from the Guardian newspaper, and goodness knows where that server is, and deliver that. And in 4 seconds, as a normal, as a techno person, we get that, right? Got it. Joe and Jane Smith don't care. They want it now. They're used to picking up their TV remote, pressing one button, and information. They're used to opening up a magazine And look, there's the article. Google's known this for the longest time, and it's actually Into the Plex, the great book by Steve Levy. And it's so funny, half the book is about the founders of Google just talking speed, 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 speed. I don't know, why are you so obsessed about delivery of speed of content? Well, they're a lot smarter than me. Realised that consumers, Joe and Jane Smith, don't want to wait for anything. And there is a huge issue right now with mobile devices. And that is that your news, you have to, every other experience on this device is instant. If I want to look in at Slack, calendar's up. It's there. Everything is instant. We're used to instant. Everything, I want to start this game, bang. Now, if you've been around your computer for a long, long time, we're used to delays. We're used to all of this stuff. We understand that there's extraordinary computing power all being brought to bear to deliver Candy Crush to you. Joe and Jane Smith don't care. They don't care. They want it now. They want that information now. Really crucial job to be done here that everybody has failed at. Now, everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean Google, Facebook, and Apple. That's who we're talking about. Maybe throw Amazon in there as well. They know that this is a huge issue, and they each have their solutions. Google, for example, did a massive algorithm change to reward sites that loaded quickly and were formatted for mobile. That's what Google did. What did Facebook do? You might have heard of Facebook Instant Articles, which is their new initiative with publishers, selected hand-picked publishers like the New York Times. Stay on that thought for a little while. So that when I tap that Guardian icon with somebody who's an instant publisher, boom, up that content would come immediately, right? So that's this environment that we're dealing with. So news is Apple's solution to this, but that's not the best bit. That's not the big game in town. That's not the thing that nobody's talking about right now. Actually, it's not 100% true. Jason incredibly insightful article, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time. There was something else that was announced with iOS 9 as well. So that's news. So the job that news is trying to do, if it works, okay, and if it works as advertised, Apple will pre-populate this news article so that when people to be able to get their information, get their news, boom, it's instantaneous. That's what they want here. And if they deliver that promise and they deliver incredible content directly to that could be revolutionary. That could grab a lot of eyeballs. They said in the WWDC keynote that over 50% of people use the default Notes app. As a wag in a podcast mentioned this morning, though, Compass is a default app, and how many people use the Compass app? Not many, I grant you. So it could go either way. Is this a Compass or is this a Notes? We don't know. But there's something else that they didn't talk about on the keynote because it was consumer facing. And let's bring this up here on the screen. This is where we've got the news publisher here. The Newsstand Carnage. Let's get that out of the way. So we've got Apple News format, which is coming soon. You can sign up for News Publisher and submit using an RSS feed. So if you have blog content, you should be signing up to this. I signed up eddale.co immediately because I want to use this. And you're asking, well, why would you want to do that, Ed? Why do I want to give Apple my content for no compensation? Well, interesting, because that's not what they're saying. Advertising opportunities, right? We've got our advertising opportunities, and let's pass this very carefully because this is really, really, really important. Monetization is made simple with iAd. It's Apple's advertising platform that most of you probably haven't even used or heard of because it's been a dud. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet. iAd provides campaign management, targeting, and reporting capabilities that drive your business, and it does. It's a great platform. It's awesome. Nobody uses it. Now, get this. Earn 100% of the revenue from ads you sell. Keep that in the front and center of your mind. 70% when iAd sells ads for you. So they will place advertising if you allow them. It's permission-based, and they will give you 70% cut. So all of a sudden there is a slight business model. Now, most traditional publishers will be looking at that and going, "Oh, goody, we can get some advertising, or we can sell our own advertising for the large publishers." That's going to be very, very exciting for them. We're better than that. We're much smarter than that. We are digital publishers. We are MagCasters. We have a way, 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 way bigger opportunity here. And that comes from this. Earn 100% of the revenue from the ads you sell. Why would I provide every single article, as I'm about to advocate to you, that's in my newsstand publication, in my Magcast, to the Apple News format? Well, it's because of that sentence. Earn 100% of revenue from the ads you sell. Now, how much do you charge yourself when you sell an ad to yourself? I'm just interested. I'm being facetious, of course, because the answer is nothing. Zero. Zilch. So, here's the thing, and this is why I hope normal content publishers who don't have a Magcast, although they'll probably want a Magcast after I explain the mind-blowing thing that's about to happen. Most people haven't seen iAds because, as I said, it's a dud. But it's not a dud. It's an awesome, just about it. Experience. Drive traffic to a desktop. Ability to drive traffic to the desktop. You have ability to drive traffic to your website. You can have a download. Are you following me here, Magcasters? You have the ability to download straight to the app. And these ads are effectively full screen ads. You tap the banner here to expand. Boom. You've got a whole video. You've got a whole interactive experience. These are ads noticed before. Now, driving purchases. You can have full screen videos. Or more importantly, you can drive traffic, and if you're just a normal digital publisher, direct to your site. This is how cool this is, right? This is extraordinary stuff, and it's something that you should all be incredibly excited about. And I'll just come back to me here. We're going with this. You are going to be able to drive people to opt-in pages. You are going to be able to drive people to your app download. Hello, Magcasters. Because how much are you charging yourself for your own iAd app? That's right. Zero. Nothing. Zilch. This is an amazing platform for people that have never used it because it just hasn't been implemented properly. So if you can have your articles delivered instantaneously to this, right? You with me? Articles instantaneously delivered to this. It has your advertising, which you place in this, which are incredible interactive ads, not dumb banner ads, but extraordinary selling opportunities where you can click on them and be taken to a website opt-in page, for example, or taken to download your Magcast instantaneously and then have all of your opt-ins, all of your subscription opportunities, all of those sorts of things. None of that goes away, by the way. I should point that out to Magcasters. We're not talking about the death of subscriptions. We're not talking, but are there subscriptions? Are Apple ever going to put subscriptions in news? I doubt it. Why? It completely defeats the business model. The big problem, right, with MagCasters is you have to download the information, you have to download the app, then you have to buy something. It's a poor, slow experience. That all goes. That's why I'm advocating to you that you will be wanting to put all of your in this news thing. Because I still haven't talked about the best bit. I still have not talked about the best bit. Why Apple are genius. And when you blow your mind. But right now, so let's think where we are as MagCasters. We can provide our content. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert. On the assumption that we can do this, MagCast will be delivering as soon as we possibly can the ability for you to be able to push a button to deliver this information to Apple. So you won't have to do anything else in your magazines. You'll be able to publish the information that you want to direct into this newsstand. Now, it may have ramifications for our text-based app because maybe you want to go to the advanced version, and that's where there's a lot of value add. So that they are interesting implications down the track. But I just want you to know right now that the magcasting platform will, as much as Apple will allow us to support this platform, and at the moment it works on RSS, so we'll provide an RSS feed for you out of your magazine. No biggie. So we'll absolutely be doing that for you. And as I say, that will obviously roll out over the coming few months as we start to get to grips with the platform, the formats, and everything that's been going on there. So you'll be able to use this news app, assuming it gets traction, right? Like I said, is it Notes or is it Compass? We don't know that. But I can see the problem that they're chasing. But here's the icing on the cake. Okay, here is the thing that everybody is missing and is such an extraordinarily clever play by Apple. And it's to do with search. Okay, one of the things you might not have realized that Apple announced yesterday was the ability, as long as your app allows it, and of course Magcast will be supporting this, is it allows on device Siri and search to index your apps. You can search and provide information inside your apps, and that will be reflected on the iOS 9 search. This is huge. Why is this huge? Because here's the thing, and this is going to sound a little crass, but it's the facts. The people with money, the people who buy our stuff, have iPhones, and they search with their iPhone. And they typically, and more, are going to be using Siri. And already, if you actually accounted for all the searches through Google at the moment, Apple is the second largest search engine. Not YouTube, Apple. Now, of course, it doesn't appear that way at the moment because, of course, most of the searches are going to Google because that's the way it is. But that's not going to be forever because Apple brilliantly, and Steve Jobs swore he would get revenge on Google, and this is how he's doing it. You will now have searchability inside your app. So if somebody's searching, if somebody's asking Siri for, hey Siri, give us the latest information. Give us the latest information on the Golden State Warriors. There you go. Right? And that's on iOS 9, by the way. That was my iOS 9 iPad. Guess what it does? Where's it going to get that news information from? Yes, you are absolutely correct, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get it from the news app. Guess where the links are going to go? Yes, you are absolutely correct. The news app. Are you getting this? Can you smell what Apple is cooking? This is why I think everybody needs to understand this new app. It's not something that we should be fearful of. It's something that we should be incredibly excited about and cross our fingers that in the implementation, like I said, it is more Notes than Compass. We don't know how that's going to work. I'm liking it. I'm not about to say game changer yet because until I see the implementation of it, but hopefully the strategies that I've outlined here, and of course we'll be all over this in Eddale Live, we'll be all over this in the channel. I'm excited for the challenge. What an opportunity for you to become a curator for a channel, use a blog or use a Magcast, hint, then I'll come back to that, to curate your niche, to provide that information into the newsstand, to get a following, because people will be able to follow publishers, so you'll be able to market the newsstand. You'll actually be able to get revenue. You can sell advertising against it, but that's a lowball game. Who wants to do that? Lead generation. That's what we want to do. Get people to download our apps. That's what we want people to do, because this news app is not going to provide in-app purchases. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to sell courses through the app like you can in Magcast. You're not going to be able to monetize. You're not going to be able to build lists, all of those sorts of things. And it's good that you can't. That's excellent, because we know we can promote our information. And if you become a trusted source, your news is going to show up, because Siri is going to look for information and news in the news area that Apple are collecting before it ever goes to Google or Bing or anything else. And that, to me, is the genius of what's going on here. And that's why there are huge, huge, huge implications here. So I would love to get your questions and your feedback so that I can answer on the channel. I won't do it during this broadcast, but I will go through and answer them. So if you want to leave comments below this video, if you're watching live, I will answer as many questions as I can with the information that we have currently. And of course, you can always tweet me at ed_Dale. I don't have the note to self. Get a tweet graphic. So you can tweet me at ed_Dale. And we need to further this conversation and discuss this. MagCasters, of course, we've got our MagCasters forum inside Eddale Private, which you have access to. So feel free to drop any questions in there as well. But this is an exciting thing. And I hope I've opened your eyes and your minds a bit as to why death of the newsstand, A, is a great thing. But what Apple are proposing with news and their incredible plan in search, which is genius. It's just sneaky. It's just brilliant. I think we're in for very exciting times. This is going to be a very, very interesting few months. And I hope, particularly because I know there are a lot of Magcasters tuned in, there are a lot of digital publishers tuned in today, I think this is a really awesome opportunity. So there you have it. Now, what I want to do now is switch gears slightly, but I want to encourage you to hang around, because I'm actually interviewing Taki Moore, who's from Coach Marketing Machine. And I think, here's the thing, I think that as digital publishers, remember what I said about the cost of goods going to zero? Well, that is a big issue for all of our content, and particularly when we're providing digital content. But to me, the thing that, and I'm seeing this with Magcasters, I'm seeing this with digital publishers, that what are people prepared to pay a lot for? One-to-one interaction, coaching, mentoring, photography trips, research trips, conferences. These are the things, these experiences, these community experiences are the things that I believe in the future are going to be the big ticket items, because they're the rare stuff. That's to be able to have a small group of people. I'm doing conferences over the course of the next 6 months, and I'll be coming to the UK and the US, where we just have 10 people in a room so that I can help plan their business in a room. And it's awesome. Now, what Taki does is the big problem with coaching and one-to-one experiences, of course, is they're one-to-one. And if you can have an incredibly excellent practice just doing one-to-one, but what happens if you want to go away on holidays? What happens if you want to take a break? Everything stops, right? And so these are the questions that I wanted to ask Taki about, because this is what he does. That's what he does for a day job, is talk about that. It's a fantastic interview, lots of in there. How he gets people off one-to-one coaching, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful lesson for all of us about how we can do this sort of coaching. So I am going to now bring on Taki, and we'll be going with this recording, and I'll see you at the end of the interview. All right, let's take it away, lads. Hey, welcome everybody, and I am thrilled to be interviewing, well, let's face it, he is so well known for stealing my burrito. Yes, that's right. Taki Moore, the Burrito Bandit himself, has agreed to appear. Now, first of all,
I didn't agree. My parole officer.
Yeah, that's right. It was part of the settlement. It was part of the legal decree. That is true. But no, in all seriousness, we have shared burritos since. It's all water under the bridge. But no, the real reason I've got Taki on, and in all seriousness, is this guy is the super coach. He is the coach to coaches, I think, is probably the best way to describe you, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I thought, who better to have on Eddale Live than Taki, because he's got so many. I had the chance to see him speak at James Franco's event, and some of the stuff there just was really, really impressive to me. And so I thought this will be awesome. And I've got a couple of really things. Basically, I want to find out myself that I'm interested in questions. But maybe just to start off with, Taki, maybe explain yourself. Who are you? Yep. How'd you get here? And tell us what you do.
Man, I hate that question, but you've got to answer it, so let's do something, shall we? Who am I? I'm...
Because I can make it up and fill it in.
Well, it's probably better if you do, but I'll make it up. How about that? And then you can correct it after. So I'm by day, what I do is I help smart coaches and consultants to market better, to sell with webinars, and to turn their kind of the knowledge they've got in their head, the experience they've got into group programs, so they can kind of scale up. That's what I do by day. By night, I'm the father of 6 kids, and I spend most of my time doing the fun bits of parenting and outsourcing the nappies, cleaning stuff.
6 is what range? They go.
Yeah, there's a range. They go from 5 down there to 26 up there.
Wow.
And so it's quite remarkable. We've got 6 of these kids. Ethan, who's 14 now, has got some pretty severe special needs. Autism and cerebral palsy and epilepsy and stuff. And so despite all of the kind of the nuttiness, we managed to do really well, mostly because I married up, and I've got 2 amazing nannies who help out as well. And so we managed to have 3 or 4 months a year gallivanting around the world, having a good time traveling, and the rest of the time, hopefully, the kids are at school and the principal's not too mad about the time we do take away. So
there's big, and I know with our kids too, the travel, I think that's some of the best education you can actually give kids, in my view. They see that there's a big world out there, and there's so much. Like my worldview until I think 18, before I left the state.
Right.
Albury Wodonga. Well, no, that's not true. Albury Wodonga. We used to go over to.
From Albury
that's right. We crossed the Murray River there, so technically that was travelling interstate, but it wasn't for a Beechworth boy. That wasn't that particular thing. So, how did you get into this? Well, I love asking this question. What was the first thing you sold online? The very first thing. Can you remember?
Yeah, I can. And it was a bit of a cock-up, but it worked out great. The first thing I sold online was a $200 a month membership continuity thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Except I didn't have a website, so I didn't really sell it online. I sold it on a teleseminar.
Oh, okay, yep.
To be honest, I was so nervous that the guy said, you should make an offer, and I just thought, no, I just want to help people, and I was terribly scared about the whole thing, and so I didn't. There was no offer at all, and so at the end he said, that was amazing, but you should have made an offer. If you give me some words, I'll email it out to everyone tomorrow, and so I did. Yeah. And lo and behold, 48 people wanted to buy this membership-y thing, but I didn't have a way to no website. So it was just if you want this, email Taki your phone number and he will call you. And so I didn't really sell it online. I emailed people and then I sold it offline and entered it into a computer. It was a little bit lame, but kind of funny.
Well, that was
spent the whole next day kind of having to ring these dudes for 5 minutes going, hey, do you remember me? Yep, you still want the thing? You do? Oh, okay. And get details and type it in, and away we went.
It's sort of the dirty little secret of online business in a lot of ways, that some of your best work is actually done offline. And I think, and I get the sense of looking at what you're doing and what you're teaching people to do, that because thanks to iPads and all of these sorts of things, people expect amazing digital products for 99 cents or free. And if you look at the quality of what you can get, it's astounding. But that experience of working either one-on-one or with small groups or at events and all those sorts of things, do you get the sense that that's where like the value in coaching and all of these sorts of events are?
I don't know who it was, but somebody apparently said that information wants to be free. And I haven't read it, but my friend told me that. And then apparently it said, but it also wants to be... Who was it?
Marshall McLuhan.
Okay. Did he also say that it wants to be expensive?
I think he did. That was the follow-up. Everybody focused on the free.
On the first bit. So I'm a big believer that it wants to be both free and expensive. Thank you, Marshall. I'm glad that was actually true and not just something my mate Mike told me. Thanks, Mike. So it wants to be... It definitely wants to be free. And, if your free isn't good, then why on earth would I want to do more with you, right? Thanks, Evan, and the free line and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But then I think it also wants to be expensive, because when people pay, they pay attention. And I love if let's say you've got some content and we can wrap an experience and some community around it, and then it becomes something that's not just kind of an idea, which is a dime a dozen, becomes something quite transformative.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the game we play. It's fun.
What do you think's for coaches today in this environment? What do you think's the biggest challenge that they have at the moment? What's the
well, there's two kind of obvious ones, and they're a life cycle. So the first one is for unfortunately the majority of coaches, it's not enough clients and not enough money, and then so that's a particular set of kind of problems and projects and skills. Yep. But then once you hit, I don't know, break even-ish, 10K a month or whatever that number is, it pretty quickly becomes that the model that we bought into when we became a coach is the problem. Because the more successful you get at selling one-on-one hours, the less hours you've got, and you either kind of hit the wall or you can see the writing on the wall that pretty soon you're going to run out of time. So I think they're kind of the two kind of meta ones. Day to day, it's probably attention. How do I get and deserve and make the most of people's attention is probably the biggest. Yeah.
So what do you think in terms of let's break that down a little bit.
Sure.
So in terms of,
by the way, I'm really embarrassed. We're on a video call right now, which is super awesome, and I've never ever been publicly seen before. I'm a black shirt guy, and
this is a good thing.
I came from the gym, dude, and
that's great.
I said, so hey, everyone, Taki Moore's blue on a Tuesday morning. That's it.
That's
there's no buff, man. It's man boob. If I lean like this, then
what is it? Dad bod is the new trend. Dad bod is that's the new hip word, apparently. I'm all for that.
I'm rocking dad bod.
I was doing dad bod when I was 18.
Well, I heard that you were one of the people who first brought dad bod to Australia.
Yeah, well, I was trying. Yeah, that's right. I was a groundbreaker in that. But one of the things that you talked about in terms of the coaching, though, and I think this is something that you are really good at. What is that transition? Because you're right. A good coach, by definition, tends to have started off with that one-on-one, and they're effectively, even it may be time for very good money.
Yeah, totally.
But ultimately, it is still time for money. And I think it was you who said to me, you can never be free if you are doing time for money. You can't leverage it. You have to be working to get that money in. So what are the first couple of steps along the path that you show people, I suppose, in terms of making that change? How do they turn their head around to something that they're probably not? What's their options, I suppose?
So I think the first thing I do when a coach meets me and they want to transition, from one-on-one to something more scalable, is if we just look at business through a really simple kind of framework of attract and convert and deliver, right? So the first thing we've got to look at is kind of where's the current bottleneck right now. So I've got some clients who, frankly, they've got some spare time and they've got some clients, but they've got a day or two a week that we can work with. how do we just ramp up your attract and you convert, and turn the money machine on a little bit, right? But then some other people come and I've got this really fun client in Seattle called George and his business partner Noel, and they work with chiropractors and great, just lovely guys. I mean, they wake up and every Monday morning they kind of have their green smoothie together and they say, how can we make more money, help more people and have more fun this week? It's just a really good way to think.
Yeah.
But when I first talked to George, between them they've got 200 clients, which is a lot, and they coach each of them every 2 weeks, every fortnight. So it's 400 sessions a month.
Oh, so that's a lot of sessions.
Dude, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so George said, I coach 6 days a week from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, from London time zone all the way, I think it was around to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And he said, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd look at the phone so for him, okay, well, I can't, he's got a delivery problem right now.
Yeah.
So for him, leveraged all the stuff that you do one-on-one conversation clients. If it's this much per month right now, month one-on-one for your stuff, how can we package what you know up into a system and then sell that for either the same price or just a tiny bit under? So if you are in a one-on-one sales conversation, you're really happy to kind of put somebody into this new deal, knowing that A, it frees you up time, but you're not taking a hit on the cash. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
So if it's a delivery problem, usually it's let's build something more scalable where you can have help clients in the same sort of way. They get the same kind of results, Ed, as if they're working with you one-on-one personally.
Yep.
But they can make you a heap more money and obviously give you a heap more freedom. That's kind of that piece. And if it's...
Can I just ask you there?
Sure.
Because that's an interesting statement. Let's break that apart. To get you the same results that you would get one-on-one, but in a leveraged way. Now, is that actually possible?
It totally is. And it's a massive...
Because I reckon if you were to ask a consultant, if we just grab a consultant off the street and say, look, do you think if you took people through a process, a designed package or so on, or you had the chance to work with somebody one-on-one, which would give the better outcome? I'm sure most people would ask for the one-on-one. What explain that to me?
Yeah, and it's weird. And not only is it weird, but it's also every coach's secret fear. Certainly mine. I was so embarrassed when I first wanted to switch to a group model. My fear was everyone's going to hate it. They've been getting heaps of Taki and now they're going to get less Taki.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to do it, and so I did it. And then I was kind of sheepishly asked a couple of people, and they, two of them said, actually, no, this is much better than working with you privately. And I was
what's better? What are some of the things that people say that are better?
Firstly, it was an ego hit because I was worried that maybe that meant I was crap. I didn't think I was crap.
Yeah.
So here's what's better. If I've got, let's just look at this from a couple of angles. Number one, let's say you work with 15 or 20 or whatever it is clients, or you work with hundreds over the. If you every client is unique, but if you look at the work you do, 80% of the mechanics are really similar. We, in marketing, we've got to find a niche and we've got to find a product and we've got to identify a traffic source and a conversion tool and, the stuff is the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's what happens. If you identify what are the steps in your unique process and we build a way that we can walk people through that in a group environment, then what does that do? Well, firstly, it frees up your time to create better tools, more ways to help groups of people, and it also allowed me to build a community of people who get to help each other out.
And so do you see that? And do you see that the community, obviously then the benefits of being in community? Because a lot of people fear community. Like I've had people say to me, "Well, I fear community because what if they all get together and say I'm rubbish?"
Dude, I know these are the ridiculous voices which go on in my head, and it you just have to call it what it is. It's a ridiculous voice in your head that's completely not true. Yeah. Years ago, I worked with franchise action, and we invented this thing called Massive Action Day, which was anywhere in the world where action coaches got all their clients in the same place together, and then we were just secretly freaking out. What if they whinge about their coach?
Yeah, that's right. They all get together and slag.
What if they each go, I'm not moving forward as fast as I
pitchforks
thought I should be? Right? Yeah, it's going to start off great. It's going to end up in pitchforks, and we're going to be chased out. So here's what happened. That were some of the fears.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do it because we thought it'd be a really nice leverage way to have a couple of different coaches walk people through a process and then plan at the end of the day. What actually happened was the clients met each other and they realized, I'm not alone. There's other people going through the same thing as me. We've got a common language, and they've got most, especially if it's kind of like business coaching, many clients feel like their kind of friends, family don't really get them. So if you can put people into a new tribe with people who are going through the same thing just like them, then there's a bunch of power in that. I think the other thing that happens is accountability, Ed. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about this the last couple of days. There's self-accountability. Like, I've known that gyms exist for many, many years, but I can't get myself to go to one.
They're not new, no.
No, they've been around for ages, but I can't get myself to go to one.
Yeah.
And then there's like coach accountability, which is, hey, Ed, last week on your homework sheet, you said you were going to do this and this and this. Did you do your homework?
No.
No.
Dog ate it.
Why didn't you do your homework? Insert feeble excuse here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's put that down on the list for next week then, shall we? You would reluctantly agree, but we both know nothing's happening. So coach accountability, even though it's positioned as one of the big benefits of coaching, isn't that great?
I suggest, in fact, it almost involves a negative feedback loop where totally I'd rather not come to the coaching session next week because I'm guilty, so I don't want to feel that guilt, so I will find any excuse not to come back.
Exactly. And so coaches are on this ridiculous kind of negative accountability treadmill. And it's like, so firstly, if you are a coach and you are doing accountability, then the first thing to do is stop doing did you do your homework accountability and start doing forward-focused accountability about, so what progress have you made? Great. What's next? When do you want to have that done? That's just heaps better. The third kind of accountability I think is really interesting. And you've got me on Tuesday, which is, fresh from the CrossFit day. Blue T-shirt day, right? I've just come from the CrossFit gym. And CrossFit does a lot of things really well. Yeah. My sons think I'm completely mental. In fact,
anybody I know who has got into CrossFit, it appears almost cultish, and I say that with great admiration,
100%.
Because if you can make people enjoy thrashing their body and actually and not only somehow enjoying the pain, but then really happily advocating and raving about it on Facebook. Like the number of my Facebook friends that do CrossFit and evangelize it. So it's always got me whenever I see something like that, radar is up. So from your perspective,
right. Here's one of the things that they do really, really well. They do tribe really well.
Yeah.
No, it's completely unsafe if you do all the moves without being shown safely how to do it. And if you come in there with an ego, like I've got to beat all these other guys, you're guaranteed to
blow something,
break your head off. Yeah, you're going to blow something. Just to be really clear, in what do we call it? Dad shape or dad
bod?
Yeah, so I'm dad bod, right?
Yeah.
So I go 3 times a week, 5:30 in the morning till 6:30 in the morning, and I'm last at everything. Right? So some people are really competitive and they like doing these crazy handstand push-up things, and I come last. And I'm cool with the fact that me and my mates we go out for breakfast afterwards. So it's social, right? Yeah. So I think if you go, there's one-on-one, self-accountability.
Yeah.
Frankly, I suck at that.
Yeah.
There's coach accountability, make you feel guilty. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
That's like parent-child stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
Fun. And then there's sort of peer accountability. That works really well. So one of the things that goes back to, we kind of loop back.
Yep.
What makes group more valuable than one-on-one is actually a higher level of accountability. Like in our group, Black Belt, we've got 2 little rituals which are really fun. Yeah. One's called Post-it Monday and one's called Finish It Friday. They're really simple. They're super low-tech. They involve a Post-it note, right?
Yeah.
And so every Monday, I start a post and it says Post-it Monday, what are you 3 for the week? People get a Post-it note and they write down 3 big things that I've got to get done by Friday or I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And then Finish It Friday, you just got to come back and comment on your post. Here's what I did.
Yeah.
And if, you don't want to go.
And nobody's like checking on them and say, "Did you do your Post-it note, mate?" It's like a scoreboard situation.
It's like a scoreboard. Like it's there, and people comment underneath about what they did or didn't do. Yeah. You just feel stupid if you don't do it.
Yeah.
So here's how I up the ante a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty soft. I think this is the kind of accountability that you'd probably pull off really well. Somebody posts, "Here's what I'm going to do this week." You know what I do? I click the like button. Taki saw. I'm going to do this stuff, or I comment.
Yeah.
Good job, Ed. Stay focused this week. Let me know how you go.
Yeah.
So I think that group can be more valuable because
Yep.
A, you get to actually build a system, not just reacting the whole time. You can actually be on the front foot with the client.
Yep.
So often we go, what do you want to get out of today's session? And we react to what's going on, you know, kind of the drama du jour.
Yeah.
Instead of going, actually, because we wanted to get an outcome.
Yeah.
Here's where we're at. The next logical step for us is this, and you lead.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's traditional coaching, we tend to react a little bit. In my
yeah. So what about other like traditional coaching? What's your view on things like open call-ins and things like that, like office office hours and things like that? Have you got have you got any tips for making that work and that effective? Because the thing with office hours that I've always found strange is if you make office hours, there seems to be this massive, at the start, it's 12:30, it's office hour, and you get 14 people calling in at once, and there's this issue of, we get in the queue or blah blah blah. Is there any? Do you like those sort of office hours, and B?
I like the idea behind it.
Yeah.
So what? If somebody's listening to this or watching this and they don't know what office hours is, it's basically you go, hey, I'm going to be available from 12:30 till 2:30.
Yep.
Call in and I'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good in that it makes time available for people who need it to use it, but it doesn't like force an appointment on someone who may or may not need a session.
Yeah.
What's the downside? Well, you're still doing the work. Let's say you're doing office hours and I call you.
Yep.
And I can't get through because you're working with Larry.
Yep.
You help Larry out. By the way, is Larry your dog?
Yes, he is. He's just
remembered. You've got working with Larry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking to Larry, and Larry's got some serious canine issues, which you help him out with
Yep.
for about 15 minutes. And then I get on the line, and you're going to give all your focus to me, which is great for me, but I don't get the benefit of anything that just happened with you and Larry.
Yeah.
So I think if we think, hive mind and tribe a little bit, office hours is okay because it's leveraged for you, the coach.
Yep.
But what if there was a way that we could do the same hour or hour and a half office hoursy thing, where everyone gets to benefit? So if it's, I'm happy to share a couple of things that we do that I think are quite helpful.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happens is, if you go, hey, we're going to do a Q&A call.
Yeah.
It's not that exciting.
Yeah.
For your clients to go, it's hard to raise people up about that.
Well, it's yeah, that's right, because two things happen, right? You either get somebody calls up, and obviously they will come in because they actually specifically have a question, but it's of little benefit for people who don't have that particular.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So I do a call twice a month. It's called the live coaching call. It's one of the things we do.
Yeah.
And the way I get people to show up, and frankly, the way I make it really fun for me is I take the first 15 minutes and I teach something, and I call it the 10-minute tactic. And 10 minutes, it's always like 20, but whatever. And so I can get people to show up because there's this cool new thing that Taki's going to teach about, which gives me 10 or 15 minutes of new recorded great twice a month.
Yeah.
So I teach that, and we kind of Q&A on that a little bit, and then we get into the actual call itself, and it's for something that's effectively, marketing improv, it's quite structured. So there's 3 questions I get people to answer, and we do them right at the start. So it's, what's your biggest win since last time we talked? And they type it into the GoToWebinar chat box with a W at the start. So when I look down the thread of comments, I can see all the W's and read out the wins and high five people.
Yeah.
Because mostly a Q&A is just, hey, what should I do about this?
Yeah.
But we're here to kind of build tribe.
Acknowledgement. It's an achieve. Like, there's a reason people love getting achievements in games, right? It's
exactly.
I love getting my little Apple Watch badges saying I've moved, for 7 days in a row. Woo!
See, that's fantastic. You don't want to kind of, you don't want the opposite badge, which is, the 7-day slug.
Yeah, that's right. That's Are You Still Alive, actually. Just sort of
exactly.
It's tapped my wrist on a number of occasions saying, look, do I need to call somebody?
Yeah, exactly. We should probably fix that. So even at the start of the Q&A call, before I teach my 10-minute tactic, I just ask something random. So what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Or there's this book called The Book of Questions, which I read years ago, which has a whole bunch of really interesting kind of starters. If you're in a room right now with 100 random strangers, how many of them do you think would be living lives happier than yours? It's just to get to know you, right?
Yeah.
So let's do something to start a conversation. Then I'll teach for 10 minutes. And then we get into the thing. And so it's, what's your biggest win? and people type them in, and I read them out. It's like, as the coach, the scary thing about going to a group model is you kind of lose the finger on the pulse.
Yep.
And so if we can bring that back with what's your biggest win, then A, we get to acknowledge someone who spent their whole time working by themselves, and B, you get to go, holy crap, this is awesome. Look at my guys there. Look how well they're doing. And that's the buzz, right? That's the fun.
Yep.
So then the second question is kind of with a capital P, what project are you working on? So if you think about, the next 30 days, what's the big project you really want to get done? And so I'm a big believer, as I imagine you are in kind of, I don't marathon, but I sprint really well, and projects kind of. Mm-hmm. So you go, kind of, what's your big project right now? And people will type those in, and that just lets me kind of calibrate into where they're at. And then with a capital Q at the start of the, what's your biggest question? What do you need most right now? And then I can help. I wonder if I've got my iPad here. I don't. Then I can take you off mute. You can ask me a question, and I can answer it. And I'm a big iPad, drawing guy.
Yep.
And so I'm paper 53 and my pencil kind of drawing out answers.
Yep.
Giving people kind of personalized game plans. But what's cool about it is after every 3 questions, I'll just do a quick pause and go, so we've just talked about, I helped Scott with this and Mary with that and Bob with this thing here. Which one of those 3 relates best to you, and what's the lesson that you need to get from this? And then people can have a little, that was most useful and I could apply it like that. And that way we're doing something that I think Jay Abraham used to do really, really well, which is half of the workshop was, he'd teach a little bit and then he'd apply the lessons, and he'd apply the lessons, make the whole thing really, really useful.
Tease it out, yeah. And again, that's where you're making the group environment be actually useful. So there is that real 1 + 1 = 3 sort of
exactly, and
true masterminding by facilitating that.
Yeah, exactly right. What I found is that people come to me and usually they ask me questions I'm really good at. Sometimes they ask me something I've got no idea about, but and I can go, hey, but give me 30 seconds and I'll give you my best thought. Right now, though, let John out. I want you to type in the word John, and then what do you think he should do about this?
Yeah. And that's interesting, using things like GoToWebinar and actually using the interactivity elements of those things, because I think a lot of people tend to use it purely
as a data
broadcast, from here you go.
So I've actually, I don't know when I ran my first webinar. It must have been like 2008 or 2009 or something like that. And I've been on a lot of crap webinars, like I'm sure you have.
I've given a stack of them.
I probably, Oh, I'm sure I have too. One of the things that I don't think about webinars as being a webinar. I think about it as being like an online workshop. So if you think about what makes a really fun, engaging, workshop or seminar, it's a conversation between you and the person at the front. And so it's like, how can we make the virtual thing feel much, much more like that?
Yeah.
Is one of the things I'm a little bit obsessed about.
Let me ask, speaking of things that you're obsessed about, and I love this, and something that really hit home to me with that talk you gave at James Shremko, and I think this really has a lot of applications to my audience in terms of people who are starting up their online business, or they're a digital publisher and they have a MagCast and so on. Yeah. And it was the phrase, I think it was framework before work.
Yeah.
Now, can you give us talk us through that for people who haven't heard that phrase before? Because I thought that was a really beautiful way of being put, and I thought that the concept behind it, I thought you put really powerfully.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm. It's funny. On the one hand, I'm epically productive sometimes, and on the other, I'm just completely miserable at being productive. And the difference between when I'm struggling or when I'm rocking is, am I using a framework or am I not? And so, what's a framework? Yep. It's a mental shortcut. It's a system. It's a little, 1, 2, 3, 4 step process for getting stuff done. And so we've all got them for various things. So, for example, once a week on my blog, I post a video. It's my market leadership stuff in your words. And every time I shoot one of these videos, it's 2 or 3 or 4 minutes or whatever it is. Most people are going to struggle with even creating the content. For me, creating the content's really easy because I've got a system for it. There's 3 steps to every video I make. Thank you. Someone's just walked in and given me something. Dude, this is the perfect example. Karen, you're amazing. So, framework before work. You ready?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On Friday, I had to run a webinar, and it got planned at the food court of the local mall after I'd been to a shop called Eckersley's, clearly.
Yeah.
And this is my notes that I got my slides from.
Look at
So
that.
thank you, Karen. That's hilarious. So let's have a quick look at this, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome.
All right. So let's talk about, the webinar was about planning workshops, like how to build a 2-day workshop. And so one of the first frameworks I use is this little one right here.
Yep.
It's called the 4 Forces, and the stuff on the purple side is away from motivations. Stuff on the blue side is towards motivations. Everything on the top half is immediate, like it's something that's going on right now, and below is imagine something in the future. And so if you just go, that's a little framework for figuring out why people should even care about your stuff.
Yep.
So we've got fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. So a little framework. Before I create any content, I've got to get people to show up for it.
Yep.
And so I do my little 4 boxes.
Yep.
Pick this topic, planning a workshop. What are the frustrations? Well, I don't know what to say. It's kind of boring, and they're disengaged. What's the long-term fear? Well, it's really, really hard. It feels like hard work, and nobody really gets any value. Great. What are the wants? Boom, boom, boom. So a framework, it's like, how easy is it for me to create the first 5 minutes of my webinar now, because I've just gone, and then I've gone 3 frustrations and a fear, 3 wants and an aspiration, done.
Yep.
Thanks, Karen, for popping in with my random piece here. Yeah.
So as people saw from the whole Eckersley shop there, like each one of these, we won't go through them all, but they are all examples, right, of different frameworks, because I've seen some of, and I've seen you do this, and that's what I thought was so really impressive about.
So check this out. I'm a frameworks nerd, right?
Yeah.
And I like good stationery, and I couldn't find a book that did what I wanted, so I'm such a geek, dude. I built my own. I built my own book. And what is it? Right. It's nothing but a collection of frameworks. So I'm writing a book right now, and that's always felt like really scary. So I thought, well,
totally.
I'm going to have some chapters. If I've never written a book before, the idea behind a framework is, if you're going to do it more than once, just build a system so it's really easy.
Yeah.
So you're not blank paging, because blank paging or blank screening is hard. And so I built this thing. I was like, well, what would go in a good chapter?
Yeah.
Well, so I scribbled down some stuff. I turned it into a worksheet called the Book Builder. Right? And the Book Builder is frustrations and fears, wants and aspirations, like we just talked about, a case study, 3 points, how to do it, a worksheet, and something to download. So here's the deal. I go to the cafe, and I've got to write some chapters of my book. So I order the burger, and then I just did a chapter.
So that's a chapter. Each one of that, you've got a chapter per.
And that's another chapter.
Yeah.
And I got 3 chapters done before a burger arrived.
Yeah.
Holy crap, man! Who writes 3 chapters before? That was 22 minutes or 18 minutes. I was like, so easy, because I don't have to think big. All I have to do is fill in a little box.
And I think this is something for everybody watching this. It's so important. It's you. I'm like this. You're like this. Our colleagues and friends are like this. People have to understand we're not ferociously productive all the time. And in fact, I would argue that most of us are probably in the productivity scale, maybe apart from Evan Pagan, because he's a bit of a freak. He's not. And he's not fun anyway. But
not 100% human. I don't know.
No, definitely not. But we actually are on the really poor side of productivity. But the difference is we understand that I love you use the word sprint. Yeah. And I have the same thing. I have 30-minute sprints, right? Okay. And people call it, you've got Pomodoro technique. You can call it a million different things. Yeah. But this is what people should really understand, and I think they underestimate it. Is it's those sprints. And you look at authors, you look at musicians, you look at this phenomena is everywhere. Totally. Is those sprints are the things that's the difference, where you get that productivity, you get that thing in bursts, so that the rest of life is crazy.
What a sprint does time-wise is it forces focus, and it constrains options, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So what a sprint does time-wise, I've got 30 minutes to get stuff done. Time-wise, does
but here's where you get the power, right? Yeah. If you just having a deadline is good, right? And having the stopwatch on, I literally use a timer, is good. Where the real juice happens, though, in my view, and this is what I thought you gave great clarity to, is if you add framework into that deadline, into that sprint timeline, then you're cooking with gas, because the amount of energy and willpower you sap up if you've got the deadline time, but you're not too certain of what you're going to be doing in that deadline, all that energy that you're blowing just thinking, what should I do? Whereas if you've got that book framework like you did there for a chapter, well, I've got to fill in these blanks.
And I love your brain doesn't really care what it does. It just wants something to do.
This is it. And it's like and I'm a sucker for, speaking of things that you do when you're not actually working, is I'm a sucker for these, reality TV chef, master chef, top chef, you name it.
People I'm actually scared of the kitchen.
It's a little bit. I won't go near the kitchen, but I am fascinated by watching people prepare food. It's great. But the thing that amazed me is, and I think it's a great point, is that, of thousands, one of the, and this is across all shows, is they have this thing called the mystery box challenge, or they call it different things in different shows, right? So you pull the thing off, and you've got sheep's intestines, a chicken leg, and some, cumin or some sort of herb. Make something. And you've got 15 minutes. Go. Now, what is fascinating to me is I've probably watched thousands of those, and I could count on one hand the number of times people haven't actually, what they call in the trade, plated up. Right? They haven't actually had. Now, what may be on there may be rubbish, but they always deliver something, because your body, your brain won't let you not deliver any, like having a blank plate is just not on, because they're there to cook. And that to me is a great real world example.
The other thing that's great about that, Ed, is in that particular example, somebody gave you the ingredients of the mystery box. And so when I do my sprints, I'd be really interested to kind of find out how you do yours. But when I do my sprints, usually I come to my sprint with the ingredients of the mystery box already given to me.
So
I've got to do a case study and 3 points and a this and a that. Or when I used to write this might be good for your MagCast guys, I used to write a 12-page actual physical paper newsletter, and it used to kill my life until I figured out sprints, and then something called Content Twister, where I'd have all of my, kind of write my articles with 7 different styles of articles down one side and the hot buttons on the top, and I just go, okay, sales, mistakes, boom. And so I'd map out a bunch of these, and I had 50 minutes to outline, like a little mind map, outline 7 articles in 50 minutes. That was my kind of sprint. And then the next week I'd come back and voice record the mind maps and ship that off to somebody to... So I think the mystery box is such a great metaphor for that.
It works very well. Let me just change tacks quick, because we could talk for hours, but I wanted to ask you 2 questions about rituals. And one was, what are your rituals? What are the things that you do on a daily or a regularly weekly basis that are important to you?
So there are a few, some more so than others. Mostly like the first one I'll say, and this is going to make me sound a bit weird, but it's completely true, is going barefoot. And there's just something, Mum had us barefoot as kids, and there's something that happens when I put on shoes, I feel like I'm not free. And when I take shoes off, I feel free to kind of create. That I do, I've got an online business, as do you, but I'm much happier without my computer than I am with it. I find, it's just way too addictive, and I'll end up on Facebook kind of clicking like on cat videos if I'm not careful. And so I get most of my good work done at a cafe with a sprint and a Spotify playlist in my ears, either Focus at Will, that kind of app, or there's a playlist called ESM, I think it is, Electronic Study Music, that just kind of fills the space. I can't work at home. I've got this great office at home. I never work there because it's too quiet. Silence is kind of noisy.
So it's pen and paper. You've got your framework. You've got your sprint, and it's remarkable how many people who I know who are great tech digital geeks who are exactly the same, and I'm very much the same.
Exactly right. And so the other thing that's been really fun for me in the last year has been I got a stand-up desk. You press the little button and it goes up. So that's cool.
Nice.
I find when I move, my brain kind of kicks into gear. But the other thing that's been great is I went down to Officeworks and I got a roll of brown craft paper. It's like 100 meters of like brown paper about, that thick. And I just like dump it on the right-hand side of off the edge of the desk on the ground. And I just roll it up.
Yep.
And got a Sharpie and I just scribble and think and then take a photo and ship that up, like text that off to somebody and they go make magic happen. So it's
sort of like a horizontal whiteboard in a sense, but with
and so but it literally, I don't ever have to erase anything. It just scrolls off, and then I know it's time to clean up when the pile on the left hand side of my desk is up at about kind of waist width. So that's one. I learned something amazing from Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, last year that changed my life, and he talked about the 4 sort of phases. He talks about how we worked with a project manager, and I thought it was amazing.
Yep.
And he talks about there's 3 kinds of people. There's the business owner or the entrepreneur, there's the project manager and a process manager. And your job as the entrepreneur is to make it up. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else makes it happen, and then somebody else makes it recur. And so I just thought, well, that's great. And so I think about myself now as like, if my business is a series of like 400 meters, what do they call it? 4 by 100 meter sprints like in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. I just do the first 100 meters. Yeah. My idea is kind of invent an idea and give it off to somebody else and then go back and kind of invent the next thing. So that's really fun.
Yeah. And I think that, and this is something just to highlight on that a second, Taki, is that something I struggle with too, is that they're different people.
Yeah, they're different people.
It's incredibly rare. In fact, I would almost go to say the unicorn-like almost, to have somebody who actually has the capabilities of doing all of those. You're intrinsically different people. And that's something that I've been really coming to realise over particularly the last couple of years, is that people have, and neither is, by the way, neither is good or bad. No, it doesn't matter where you are in that continuum. You can be a total process builder. That can be your thing. And you can be the person running your business, but understand that that's where you're at and work with that. There's no right or wrong here, right? It's very rare that, in fact, I would say impossible, effectively, that.
And even if you were the mythical unicorn, chances are, like, doing everything is just like you become the bottleneck, and especially in the businesses which are around IP and content and production and distribution. Like, I think that there's real value in being the person in front of the camera, and the more front of camera, or metaphorically front of camera you can be, and the less behind the camera editing the videos and blah blah blah, the better. Even when you first get started, some of this stuff the virtual assistant at very low, by Australian standards rates can do for you, and just kind of free you up to be a little bit more badass and rockstar.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference. Now, final question for coaches: what rituals do you think they should be doing on a daily or weekly basis that they aren't doing and that you wish they were?
Dude, that's a great question. I wish I had a really good answer. Actually, you know who's got a great answer? He's a friend of mine and a client of mine. And okay, I'm going to do this. There's an amazing coach. Mm-hmm. He lives in Malta, and his name's Matthew Kimberley. Huh. He wrote a ebook that's possibly the best written kind of lead magnet opt-in thing I've ever read in my life. Yeah. It's called The 5 to Get More Clients in the Next 60 Days.
Ah.
And it's amazing. It's really, it talks about it. It's really great.
Hey, welcome everybody, and I am thrilled to be interviewing, well, let's face it. Oh, you try to be clever and you blow up the stream. We were almost at the end there with Taki, and I'll publish excerpts from that interview and the interview onto the YouTube channel as well. So we do talk about a couple of different things and a bit of process and rituals for coaches at the end there. So there you go. I'm learning this as we go. Very sorry about that, but I think we've got it sorted now. So I hope you found Ed Dale Live useful for you. love it if you would hit that YouTube like button if you've got the opportunity for that, and would be fantastic to get your feedback on what we could do with this. If I could learn to drive properly, it would be all sorts of awesome. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. Obviously, this is going to be a huge topic of discussion going forward. It's very early days in terms of Newsstand. I should just point out, in answering a couple of questions in the chat during the live broadcast, was this doesn't change your subscriptions and in-app purchases. They'll be all still. You're just, as far as I can tell at the moment, all Newsstand turns into a folder. You've got to make sure you remember that the Newsstand is separate to your app. Okay, your app doesn't solely exist because of the Newsstand. Okay, that's where it lived. It was trapped in there. So now you've got the opportunity to, your app could actually be on the person's homepage, not stuck somewhere else in this Newsstand. That's the only real difference. It's a very simple change. There are a lot of opportunities, I think, with the new news app, as we discussed previously, and we'll obviously develop that theme further as we learn more. So with that, thank you very much for being part of this. We've got some great interviews with MagCasters coming up, doing some amazing things. Can't wait to bring those to you. We will, of course, be here, same bat time, same bat channel, 8 p.m. Wednesday, here on Eddale Live, and I'll tweet out all the details. I've got a slight echo in my headset. Oh, if I press this button here, though, won't have the echo anymore. What a deal. All right, folks, thanks so much for being part of this. Really appreciate your participation, and I hope I've given you a bunch to think about today. So with that, adios. We will speak soon. Ciao for